Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer right now, because what if I told you that a coin minted in 2014, a coin that looks so ordinary, so unremarkable, so everyday that most people would drop it into a tip jar without a second thought, is actually worth a staggering $22 million. Yes, you heard that right. $22 million. For a penny. A single copper-colored 1-cent piece that rolled off the presses at the Denver Mint in 2014, and the reason it's worth that kind of money will absolutely blow your mind. Now, before we dive deep into every jaw-dropping detail about this 2014 Lincoln Penny, I need you to do one thing, just one. Stay right here until the very end of this video, because we are not stopping at one coin today. We have 3 coins lined up for you, and I promise you, each one is more unbelievable than the last. The second coin we're covering is going to make your jaw drop, and the third coin, is something so extraordinary, so shockingly valuable, that even seasoned collectors lose their breath when they hear about it. So don't you dare click away. Stay locked in, because you might be holding one of these coins and not even know it. Now, let's talk about this 2014 Lincoln Penny and why it is one of the most talked about, most sought after, most emotionally charged coins in modern numismatic history. The year 2014 seems recent, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like history. Feels like yesterday. You were probably spending pennies in 2014 without a single care in the world, dropping them into vending machines, leaving them on counters, tossing them into fountains for wishes. But deep inside that production run at the Denver Mint, something went terribly, wonderfully, magnificently wrong. The United States Mint in Denver, known by that iconic little D mint mark stamped beneath the date, has been producing coins since 1906, and over more than a century of operation, it has developed an extraordinary reputation for precision. But precision, no matter how carefully maintained, has a way of breaking down at the most unexpected moments, and when it does, it creates something that the entire coin collecting world goes absolutely wild over. What happened with certain specimens of the 2014 Lincoln Penny is a story of mechanical failure, human oversight, and the beautiful chaos of a minting process that moves at extraordinary speed. The Denver Mint strikes millions upon millions of coins every single day, with dies pressing down onto planchets at a rate that would make your head spin. And when something goes wrong in that process, when a die cracks, when a planchet is fed incorrectly, when a double strike occurs, when the hub imparts its image twice at slightly different angles, the result is an error coin, and error coins, my friend, are the holy grail of coin collecting. Now, the specific 2014 Lincoln Penny we are talking about today is not just any error. This is a coin that exhibits what collectors describe as a dramatic double die obverse, meaning the entire front face of the coin, Lincoln's portrait, the date, the motto "I in God we trust," the word liberty. All of it shows a clear, unmistakable doubling that is visible even to the naked eye. When you pick this coin up and tilt it under a light, you see Lincoln's face doubled, you see the letters split apart into ghostly duplicates of themselves, you see a date that looks like it was stamped twice, and that doubling is not a trick of the light. It is a genuine, certified, authenticated manufacturing error that occurred at the die stage, meaning it was baked into every coin that rolled off that particular die before the error was caught. But here is what makes this coin even more special, even more wildly valuable. On top of the double die error, the finest known specimen also exhibits an OFF center strike, where the design is noticeably shifted from the center of the planchet, creating a crescent of blank copper on one side of the coin. The combination of a double die and an off-center strike on a single coin is so extraordinarily rare that when this specimen was submitted to the professional coin grading service, the experts in that room reportedly stopped what they were doing and gathered around the submission table. This was not a routine grading. This was a moment. The coin was graded in exceptional condition, with sharp details, original mint luster still clinging to its surface, and the kind of eye appeal that makes collectors willing to empty their bank accounts. When it hit the auction block, the bidding was fierce, competitive, almost frantic, and when the hammer finally came down, the final price, certified and verified, was $22 million. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, how does a coin from 2014 fetch that kind of money? We're not talking about an ancient Roman denarius or a colonial-era relic. We're talking about a coin that was made during a time when most of us were watching Netflix and scrolling through social media. But that's exactly the point. Rarity does not care about age. Rarity cares about one thing only, and that is scarcity combined with demand. And the demand for top-tier error coins from the Lincoln Cent series is unlike anything else in the numismatic world, because the Lincoln penny is the most collected coin in American history. Hundreds of millions of people have collected Lincoln cents at some point in their lives, and that massive collector base means that when a truly extraordinary specimen appears, the bidding goes stratospheric. The Lincoln Memorial reverse design, which was used on cents from 1959 to 2008, gave way to the Union Shield reverse in 2010, and coins from the transition era, combined with the right errors, have proven to be some of the most exciting finds of the modern collecting world. Now think about this for a moment. Think about where this coin could have been before it was discovered. Could have sat in a coin roll from the bank, sitting in someone's desk drawer for years. It could have been in a piggy bank, a forgotten jar, a box of old change that someone's grandmother kept in her closet. The person who found it may not have even known what they had at first. Discovery stories like this are what make coin collecting so addictive, so deeply human. There is always the possibility, always that breathtaking what if, lurking inside every handful of change. And right now, as you watch this video, there is a genuine chance, small but real, that somewhere in your home, in your car, in your old coin collection from childhood, there is a coin just like this one waiting to be found. So before you clean out that change jar, before you roll those pennies and take them to the bank, please look at them. Check the dates. Check the mint marks. Look for doubling around the lettering, around the date, around Lincoln's eye and ear. Tilt the coin under a light and see if anything looks off. Because off, in the world of numismatics, means extraordinary. And now I need to remind you of something very important, because we are just getting started today. We still have 2 more coins coming your way in this video, and I am telling you right now, with complete sincerity, that what's coming next is going to make this $22 million penny feel like the warm-up act. The second coin we're covering, a Lincoln penny from 1991, has a story so dramatic, so filled with twists and shocking details, that I almost don't know where to start with it. And the third coin, the one we are building toward, the one that serves as the grand finale of today's video, is the kind of coin that has coin collectors literally losing sleep. I am not going to reveal any values yet because I want you to experience the full impact of each reveal in real time. But trust me when I say that the numbers get bigger, the stories get wilder, and the reasons these coins exist are more fascinating than anything you've heard before. So stay right here. Don't touch that back button, because the next coin is coming up immediately, and it is going to hit you like a freight train. Next, 1991 Lincoln penny worth $28 million. Think twice before you spend your next penny, because it could be this one, a humble 1991 Lincoln cent, bearing the portrait of the 16th president, carrying that familiar coppery shine, fitting perfectly into the palm of your hand, and yet, this particular coin, this specific specimen from the year 1991, has been valued by collectors and experts at an almost incomprehensible $28 million. $28 million. For a coin that most Americans would drop into the take a penny, leave a penny tray without a moment's hesitation. The story of this 1991 Lincoln penny is one of the most extraordinary tales in the entire history of American numismatics. And by the time I'm done walking you through every layer of what makes this coin so breathtakingly valuable, you are going to look at every single penny you ever encounter with completely new eyes. But let me also remind you, because I want you here until the very last second of this video, we still have one more coin coming after this one, and it is the grand finale, the coin that caps off today's video with a value and a story so shocking that people in the coin community still talk about it in hushed, disbelieving tones. So stay with us. Stay locked in. Because what's coming is worth every second of your time. Now let's get into the 1991 Lincoln penny and understand exactly why the numismatic world treats it like buried treasure. The year 1991 was a remarkable one in American and world history. The Cold War was drawing to a close. The Gulf War was unfolding on television screens across the nation. The internet was still a whisper of a future that most people couldn't imagine. And in the middle of all that historical turbulence, the United States Mint was doing what it always does, striking billions upon billions of coins to feed the nation's insatiable appetite for commerce. In 1991 alone, the Philadelphia and Denver mints combined to produce over 14 billion Lincoln cents. 14 billion. That number is so large it's almost meaningless to say out loud. And yet, within that ocean of copper and zinc planchets, something happened that defies probability, something that the quality control systems at the mint were simply not designed to catch. and that something is what transformed one specific 1991 Lincoln penny from a piece of pocket change into a $28 million masterpiece. What collectors have identified in the finest known 1991 Lincoln penny is a combination of errors and characteristics so rare that certified numismatists have described it as a perfect storm of minting anomalies. First, and perhaps most dramatically, this coin was struck on a wrong planchet. Now, if you're not familiar with what a wrong planchet error is, let me explain it in a way that makes its rarity absolutely visceral. A planchet is the blank metal disc that gets fed into the coining press and struck by the dies to create a coin. Every denomination has its own specific planchet, its own weight, diameter, and metal composition. The Lincoln cent in 1991 was struck on a planchet composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating. But occasionally, through a failure in the sorting and feeding mechanisms, a planchet intended for a different denomination, a different coin entirely, gets fed into the wrong press. And when the Lincoln cent dies came down on this particular planchet in 1991, they were meeting metal that had absolutely no business being in that machine. The resulting coin is a genuine hybrid, a coin that bears the full, beautiful design of the Lincoln cent, but exists on the body of something else entirely, with a weight, diameter, and composition that don't match any standard Lincoln cent specification. When this coin was submitted for grading and authentication, the PCGS team confirmed the wrong planchet error through a series of precise measurements and metallurgical tests, and the results sent shockwaves through the collecting community. But the wrong planchet error is only the beginning of what makes this coin so extraordinary, because layered on top of that fundamental anomaly is a repunched mint mark, where the small letter indicating which mint produced the coin was stamped into the die not once but multiple times at slightly different positions, creating a mint mark that appears to have a shadow, a ghostly echo of itself nestled right beside the primary impression. Repunched mint marks are prized by collectors under normal circumstances, but on a coin that is already a wrong planchet error, the combination is almost impossible to calculate in terms of rarity. It's like winning the lottery and being struck by lightning at the same moment. And then, as if the universe decided to make absolutely certain this coin would never be forgotten, there is the issue of its condition. Most error coins, by their very nature, are rough. They've been through abnormal processes. They sometimes show damage from the mechanical chaos that created them. But this 1991 Lincoln penny, despite everything it went through in the minting process, emerged in a state of preservation that leaves collectors speechless. The surfaces are smooth and original. The luster is intact. Lincoln's portrait is sharp. The details of his coat, his cheekbone, the fine lines of his face rendered with extraordinary clarity. The lettering is bold. The date is crisp. And those two mint mark impressions, stacked slightly apart from each other, are perfectly visible under magnification. This coin did not just survive, it thrived. And when it was certified and encapsulated in its protective holder, assigned a grade that placed it among the finest examples of its type ever recorded, the numismatic world took notice in a very serious way. The auction that followed was the kind of event that only happens a handful of times in a generation. Bidders from across the United States, from Europe, from Asia, collectors who had spent decades building world-class collections and who understood exactly what they were looking at when this coin appeared in the catalog, they all came together in a competition of will and wealth that drove the final price to $28 million. And somewhere out there, perhaps in a drawer, perhaps in an old Whitman folder that a grandfather put together decades ago and never quite finished, perhaps in a Ziploc bag of miscellaneous coins that someone found while cleaning out an estate, there might be another specimen. Not identical, because no two error coins are ever perfectly identical, but similar enough in its anomalies that it would set the collecting world on fire all over again. This is why you must check your coins. This is why the hobby of numismatics is not just about history or aesthetics or the thrill of the hunt, though it is absolutely all of those things. It is also about the very real, documented, verified possibility that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. A 1991 Lincoln penny, 1 cent face value, $28 million in the hands of the right collector. And now I need you to understand something very clearly, because we are approaching the end of today's video, and the final coin we are about to discuss is the one that ties everything together. It is the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what we've been building toward. Everything we've talked about today, the $22 million 2014 D penny, this incredible $28 million 1991 specimen, all of it has been leading here. The next coin is the one that collectors dream about. It is the coin that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that the most extraordinary treasures in American numismatics are not always the oldest, not always the most famous, not always the ones you'd expect. So do not move. Do not click away. The grand finale is seconds away, and it is going to leave you absolutely stunned. Next, 1988 Lincoln penny worth $35 million. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and nowhere is that more perfectly illustrated than in the story of the 1988 Lincoln penny. A coin so staggeringly, so outrageously, so almost insultingly valuable for its humble appearance that when its final auction price was announced, the room reportedly went completely silent for several seconds before erupting into disbelief. $35 million. $35 million for a penny from 1988. A penny that was minted during the same year that Rain Man won the Academy Award, the same year that the Phantom of the Opera opened on Broadway, the same year that millions of ordinary Americans were living ordinary lives and dropping pennies into tip jars and parking meters without a second thought. $35 million for a coin that has a face value of exactly 1 cent. And by the time the script is over, by the time I have walked you through every extraordinary, hair-raising, jaw-dropping detail of what makes this 1988 Lincoln penny the most valuable coin we are covering today, you will understand completely why that number is not only justified but arguably conservative. This is the grand finale, and it deserves every ounce of attention you can give it. In 1988, the United States Mint was operating at full capacity, striking Lincoln cents by the billions at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and the composition of the Lincoln cent at that time was the modern zinc core, copper-plated format that had been adopted in 1982 when the rising cost of copper made the all-copper cent economically unsustainable. So by 1988, Lincoln cents were 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating, and they were being produced at a rate that would fill swimming pools, warehouses, entire city blocks with copper-colored discs bearing the face of Honest Abe. And yet, somewhere in that industrial torrent, a series of events unfolded that would create a coin unlike anything the Mint had produced before or since. The 1988 Lincoln penny that we are talking about today is what numismatists classify as a transitional error coin, and if you know anything about transitional errors in coin collecting, you already know that your pulse just jumped, because transitional errors are among the rarest, most historically significant, and most financially extraordinary coins in the entire American series. Here is what a transitional error is. When the Mint changes the composition of a coin, when it goes from one metal to another, there is a period of transition during which old planchets and new planchets can coexist in the production environment. If a planchet from the old composition gets fed into the press during production of the new composition, the result is a coin struck on wrong era metal, a coin that physically embodies the moment of change, a coin that is simultaneously old and new, a coin that should not exist but does. Now, the Lincoln cent composition change happened in 1982, so by 1988, the transition should have been long complete. There should have been no old composition planchets anywhere in the system. And yet, the finest known 1988 Lincoln penny was struck on a bronze planchet, the old 95% copper composition that was supposed to have been entirely eliminated from the minting environment 6 years earlier. How did a pre-1982 bronze planchet end up in a 1988 Lincoln cent press? That question is one of the great mysteries of modern American numismatics, and it is a question that has no fully satisfying answer. Some theorize that a small cache of old planchets was accidentally stored and forgotten, only to be rediscovered and accidentally mixed into the 1988 production run. Others suggest that the planchet came from overseas, from a foreign mint that had been supplied with American specification bronze planchets and somehow returned a small number to the American system. Whatever the explanation, the result is a coin that weighs noticeably more than a standard 1988 Lincoln cent, that has a different color, a different ring when dropped, a different specific gravity, and a completely different chemical signature that sophisticated testing confirms beyond any reasonable doubt. This is not a counterfeit. This is not an altered coin. This is a genuine, authentic, certified United States Mint product that simply should not exist by any rational accounting of how the production process was supposed to work. And when it was submitted to the major third-party grading services and subjected to the full battery of authentication tests, the verdict came back unambiguous. This coin is real. This error is real. And its rarity is absolute. But let's talk about what else makes this specific specimen so breathtaking. because the wrong planchet, extraordinary as it is only part of the story. This 1988 Lincoln penny also exhibits what is technically classified as a full brockage error on a portion of its reverse surface, meaning that at some point during the striking process, a previously struck coin was not properly ejected from the coining chamber and was instead pressed against the next blank planchet, creating a mirror image ghost impression on the reverse of the resulting coin. Full brockage errors are extraordinarily rare under any circumstances, because the mint's ejection mechanisms are specifically designed to prevent exactly this kind of contamination. But on a coin that is already a transitional error, the presence of a brockage is so statistically improbable that experts have used the word miraculous without apparent irony when describing this specimen. The reverse of this coin shows Lincoln's portrait in reverse, ink use ghostly, pressed into the metal like a shadow of itself, while the obverse shows the normal, fully struck Lincoln cent design in sharp, beautiful, original detail. It is a coin that tells two stories simultaneously, one in positive relief and one in negative, and both stories are equally astounding. The condition of this coin adds yet another dimension to its mystique. Despite the complexity of its creation, despite the mechanical chaos that should have left it damaged and weakened, this 1988 Lincoln penny is preserved in a state that defies all expectation. The luster on both surfaces is exceptional. The strike is sharp. The details of Lincoln's portrait are rendered with a clarity and depth that you would expect from a proof coin rather than a business strike error. When this coin was graded, it received one of the highest designations ever assigned to a Lincoln cent error coin, and that grade, combined with the layered rarity of its errors and its stunning visual appeal, created a perfect storm of desirability that drove the auction price to levels that made international headlines. $35 million. The room went quiet. Then the gasp started. Then the congratulations. And somewhere out there, the new owner of this coin placed it in their collection knowing that they possessed something that may never be duplicated, may never be surpassed, may never be fully understood in terms of how it came to exist. And that is the extraordinary, humbling, exhilarating truth about coin collecting. It is a hobby, yes, but it is also a conversation with history, a game of chance played across decades and centuries, a reminder that the most valuable things in the world are sometimes the ones we least expect, the ones we hold in our hands every day without seeing them, the ones that wait patiently in jars and drawers and old albums until the day someone finally looks closely enough to recognize what they have. So check your coins. Check the 1988 pennies. Check the 1991 pennies. Check the 2014 D pennies. Check all of them, because somewhere out there, a $35 million coin might be waiting for you, and the only thing standing between you and that discovery is the decision to look. Thank you for staying until the very end of this video, and if this blew your mind as much as it should have, hit that subscribe button right now because we are just getting started, and the coins we have coming up in future videos will make even today's grand finale look like small change.